Welcome back to another episode of STEM in Stilettos. This is your host, Zofia Morales, and today we are going to discuss going beyond the bar, creating spaces where everyone belongs, with our guest, Laura Nelson. Laura is the co-founder of Sober Life Rocks and the author of Inclusive Event Planner. With a strong background in leadership and events, she champions sober, inclusive gatherings that foster real connection. Her work is inspired by her own sobriety journey and a mission to help professionals design meaningful, welcoming experiences for all. She's also excited about their first conference, Amplify, an event focused on amplifying sober voices on January 15th, 2026. Join her in the Sober Life Rocks community on LinkedIn and grab a free copy of her book at soberliferocks.com. Welcome, Laura. I'm so happy to have you with us today.
Well, thank you. I'm excited to be here.
So tell us a little bit about your journey into leadership and events and sobriety. How did all
Okay.
this come together?
Yeah, it's a whole, you look back on life and you're like, how did I get where I got to? So I am actually in the dental industry in my day job. I have my degrees in human resources and organizational development. And then I married a guy who went to dental school. So I got into dentistry because my now actually ex-husband is a dentist. We were married for 22 years. I helped him grow two practices. And during that time, I started a business and became a speaker teaching teams. And so I had an opportunity to go to hundreds and thousands of conferences over my span of my career.
Sure, and probably in not just your own focus, but also his.
Exactly. As the spouse and as a speaker and as a, learning and growing in the industry. Had two children, was living the everyday life. But during that journey, there were times in my journey where I wondered about the amount of alcohol we were drinking, right? Because you go to events and you have friends over and you have sports events and you go to conferences. And so I do like the 30-day sober thing to just kind of prove that I didn't have a problem with alcohol. And I was a functioning, I mean, I was an adult. I had a business, I had kids, I had a life.
None of my life is falling apart. It's all together in one pile. I cannot be an alcoholic.
Exactly. And I had my father during my whole time and my whole life saying, be careful because we have alcoholism in our family. But I looked at everyone in my family and I thought, well, nobody's not drinking, so everybody must be okay. It must just be me trying to balance work and life and kids and family, my career, and this substance that's everywhere all the time.
Right.
And like I mentioned, I'm no longer married to the dentist. So I found myself alone with my almost adult children, now analyzing life just in general, right? Like, this is not what's supposed to happen in life. And then realizing one of the relationships that's strongest in my life was with alcohol. And I was using alcohol for getting through things. And so that was kind of the trajectory of how it started with my coming to terms with I needed to stop drinking.
Yeah.
Um,
Was there like a moment where the light bulb went on? I know you kind of were sniffing around the edges with your 30-day sober
yeah,
plan.
yeah, actually there was. It was kind of all came together over one weekend. I was at a conference and I was supposed to speak the second day of the conference. So the night before I speak, I was always very good about not staying out too late, getting good sleep, not drinking. But I wasn't supposed to speak the first day of the conference. Well, the meeting planner, the person who couldn't show up the first day, asked if I could go on a day early. And I really couldn't because I hadn't had a good night's sleep. I was out too late, drank too much wine with girlfriends or whatever. So I couldn't speak a day early, which kind of was like, that's my career. This is what I do for a living, and I can't do it. That night, I was started wearing an Aura ring, which is the sleep monitoring ring.
Yeah.
That
Mhm.
night, I took the ring off because I didn't want to see what alcohol was doing to my sleep because I thought I was sleeping it off, but really, your body is processing it all night long.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
then the next morning, I got up and I got on the treadmill and I was watching a TED Talk and I was trying to find something. And I found Gray Area Drinker, which is a TED Talk where she talks about I don't consider myself an alcoholic, but I know I have issues with alcohol. And
Yeah.
do I need to have that title or not? Or can I just be? And she defined it as a gray area drinker. And that hit home with me. And that was the last day that I drank. So it all kind of came together at one point. And I came home and I said, it's too exhausting trying to balance all the things I want to do in my life and this substance. And I'm kind of, as an entrepreneur, I'm an all in or all out type of personality. And that was the day I said, I'm out. I'm done with the alcohol. And it wasn't as easy as that. I definitely had to go through the process, but it was really the kind of the culmination of all of that together.
Yeah, the initial decision is simple. It's the recommitment to that decision every time one of these decision points comes up.
Yes. Yeah. And I was lucky enough, the very first book I read right after, the day after, was called This Naked Mind. And
Ah,
in the book, she really breaks down why we have such an issue with alcohol in our society, how it's everywhere. We grew up seeing it. It's on all of the advertisements, it's at the sports events, it's in our everyday lives. And that book changed the way I felt about alcohol. So I went from I can't drink alcohol to I choose not to. And I still feel that way today. Like I make a decision every single time when I'm at an event with somebody, I could drink if I wanted to, but I'm choosing not to. So it's a very different mindset, I think.
yeah, and I like that actually better than well, I'm a recovering alcoholic and I've got this quote unquote disability. A more empowering place to come from to say, you know what, I choose to live sober because I like it better. I like the
Yeah.
results of it better. Yeah, it just works better for me.
And there's more and more people. I mean, the latest Gallup study that just came out said that almost 50% of Americans are not drinking. And I've talked to people all the time about this, and there's more and more people now who are choosing not to drink for various reasons. Before it used to be recovery, religion, or maybe health reasons. Now it's, I just don't feel like it, or it doesn't serve me anymore,
Yeah.
or I'm taking a break, or I'm drinking less. It's not necessarily that you have to be an alcoholic or not, or sober or not. It's just more of being curious about the relationship and how it's serving you and being more empowered in that decision of what you do.
Yeah, I like that. We've got alcoholism runs in my family as well. And so I've always been very aware of this when it comes to things like alcohol or prescription
Mhm.
pain meds, that kind of thing. And so I choose to partake as little as humanly possible
Mhm.
because personally, I like to be in control.
Right.
And I don't want to give that over to the bottle or the pills or whatever it is.
Right. Well, and there's more and more research out now showing that, alcohol for what it is an addictive substance. Its job is to get you addicted to it. And we used to think you were or you weren't, right? You
Right.
were an alcoholic or you weren't. And that's really what kept me from really analyzing my relationship with alcohol because I didn't think I was an alcoholic. But really, alcohol use disorder is a spectrum. And everybody, if you've ever drank for the wrong reason, drank too much, woke up hungover, regretted drinking, any of those, you are on the spectrum. Now, where you're on the spectrum, that's a personal decision. And when would you become addicted? I mean, it is an addictive substance. If you drink it long enough for the wrong reasons, you would become addicted to it. So it's kind of changed the message from like, it's just the person who's the problem to realizing it's the substance that's the problem and then how we're using it, when we're using it, if we're choosing to use it, that's really where the addiction part comes in.
Right. Well, and society plays a role. Oops, I forgot to put my mic back on. I'm going to put my mic back on. I'm sure people will hear me much better now.
There we go. They're like, why does she sound so
Why is
distant?
she so distant? She came back and was just disconnected. So, yeah, but I think also society plays a strong role in getting people addicted to it in a lot of ways because there are so many subsections of society where that's how people socialize. And like you mentioned, professional conferences, some industries are far worse than others in this regard. It's like, yeah, we're going to have a three martini lunch and do some business. Yeah, that makes it really challenging if you've got addiction that runs in your family to participate in something like that.
Yeah, and that's part of the reason why I've kind of taken this journey on my like sober life rocks plan is because many people, when you stop drinking or are trying to drink less, in your personal life, you can make changes to make that easier. Not that it's easy, but easier. The friends you hang out with, the restaurants you go to, the events you might choose not to go to the winery event because you know
Right.
it's all about wine, right?
Exactly. And the things you choose to keep in your house or not. Yeah.
Exactly. But for work events, for work things, it's a little bit harder, right? And one of the things that we found is a lot of people we say are either sober in silence or suffering in silence when it comes to work. And because they're kind of keeping that private and not talking about it, and therefore showing up to these events that you have to go to, the wine and dine dinners, the three martini lunches, the conference networking happy hours. And really, honestly, for me as a professional, one of the things I'm most proud of is my sobriety. Like it was a lot to go against societal norms. I had to overcome a lot. I had to learn a lot about me as a human when I no longer leaned into the alcohol to like numb the pain or and so as a professional, I think I'm actually stronger and a better professional because I chose not to drink. But yet a lot of people keep it secret. And then we have to go to these events where you have to be around it all the time. And so we really want to change the norm around that.
Yeah, and what's available as alternatives at the event. I've gone to professional events, particularly when I was in real estate,
Mhm.
and they would have like these margarita mixers and this sort of thing. It's like, yeah, I don't want a margarita. What else have you got? We don't even have soda. Everybody's having margaritas. Like, okay, well, I'm just gonna
Yeah,
stand
drink
with
water.
yeah, exactly, a glass of water. Maybe we can put a lime in there so it looks a little fancy.
Yeah. And then the reality of people asking, why aren't you drinking? Are you pregnant? Are you in recovery? Are you, what does it matter?
Yeah,
Really?
exactly.
Who should care? We actually don't care what's in your cup. And on the flip side, if you decide to drink, I don't care either. You choose to drink, that's fine. I choose not to drink. I don't care that you eat. And there's the joke of one of the comedians. I don't care if you eat mayonnaise or not. Why do you care if I drink alcohol? But it's such a societal norm that there's many of us trying to just put spotlight to say, maybe we can change this so that it's just easier for people to be able to do their life the way they want to.
Yeah, yeah. Especially if you've gone past whatever your personal line is into addiction,
Mhm.
the less temptation you can have in your life, the better. And so having a workplace that is sobriety friendly, I think is really important.
For sure. And that's where, for anyone listening to this as we get into this, you're like, oh, I'm kind of done. We're not saying alcohol needs to go away. We're not saying everybody needs to be sober. I'm not saying every event needs to be sober events, but there needs to be better inclusivity. There needs to be more of just let people do what they think is right for them. And one of the problems is we've always just done it this way. This is just the way it's
Mhm.
always been done. We can change the way it's always been done, but we have to bring light to it and discuss it. And a lot of people say nobody's really even talked to me about it. That's because for years it's been anonymous. Everyone's kept it secret. And now, if more and more people will talk about it, we can actually put some spotlight on it.
Yeah, exactly. We're taking the anonymous out of AA.
Mhm. Right. Yep. And the AA is great. The 12-step program's great. And there was a reason why it was anonymous. 50 years ago, you would have problems at work if so it served its purpose and it's still great to this day, but there's a lot more people now who are shouting from the rooftops like me. And I have people in our community who say, well, I don't want to be the poster child of Sober Life Rocks. And I'm like, don't worry, I already am. So you can
Yeah, we
stay
have
anonymous.
one. You're
Yeah,
safe.
right. You can stay anonymous. What we're just trying to do is build a community and build a movement to change this.
What should a small business owner be aware of, or what are we hoping they'll become aware of from today's conversation?
So like I said, there's a percentage of people who are suffering in silence or sober in silence or analyzing their relationship around alcohol in silence. And when we have these events that are alcohol first, alcohol forward, it makes it very hard and uncomfortable for the employees or the teams or the guests or the cut clients or whatever that you're having for those that are dealing with this issue. And it's a private issue. It is literally, I mean, I remember months and years of thinking like, do I have a problem? Do I not? All of these things. And so then we go to these events and it's very hard. And so my thought for small business owners is to realize that there's a percentage of people in your ecosystem that are battling one way or another in this area. And if you can make your events more sober inclusive, it's going to make your event more inclusive for everyone. And ultimately, the reason that we host events is for connection, right? We can get all of the content we need online, YouTube, podcast, right? What we're trying to do is make people feel connected. That's why we come together. So if you can change your event to be not so alcohol forward, or at least recognize that there needs to be better options for those who are choosing to be there but not want to drink, and make it easy for them, you're going to have more inclusion at your event. You're going to have more people connected. It's going to be a better outcome. And there might be people who would normally not come to your event who might be coming because now they can feel it's a little bit more sober friendly of an event.
Yeah, I like that. So we are up on our first break, and I like to give a little bit of homework over the break to think about around this particular topic. What do you think would be good homework for this break?
Think about the last event you went to and how much of the event was focused on drinking alcohol in that area.
Yes, as opposed to some other focus, whether it was networking or game playing or team building or what it was.
Exactly.
I like that. And hang with us. We'll be right back from the break.
Oh, checked it out, the wolf here. Tech is ours and we show no fear. No fear. No fear. No fear.
Thanks for hanging in with us through the break. This is Zofia Morales. I'm back with the amazing and wonderful Laura Nelson. And so over the break, we spent some time thinking about the last event we went to, the role that alcohol played in that. And let's take on a myth, shall we? Because I know a lot of times when people are planning things, they feel like it has to be alcohol forward or people won't come.
Right. So that is a myth that I think is kind of goes back to what I said earlier of this is the way we've always done it. I believe that when we're planning events or meeting planners, they go to alcohol as the way to get more people to show up. So we offer longer happy hours, better
Yeah,
alcohol,
open
better.
bar. Yeah.
Right. Exactly. And what I'm advocating here is not that we get rid of the alcohol. Not that, I mean, you can have a sober event. That's completely fine. I actually think there's some appropriate events that maybe having sober options would be good. Maybe less family drama at the end of
At the end of
Thanksgiving
the
dinner,
night, yes.
right? Yeah. But with alcohol being included, the goal here is not to get rid of alcohol. It's to make it not be the main attraction. It's not the main event. To have, and there's different ways we can do, and I wrote this in the book, which is a free download, different things you can do at your events to make it fun and with the ultimate goal of connection, which is why people actually want to show up, and rethink about how we put alcohol in the equation because alcohol is not the end all be all. We just have always done it that way. Right.
Yeah.
And that's why it's the myth that that's what we need to do. And really, that I can save you money and get more people to show up if you actually do some of the inclusion part of how to make your events better.
Give us a little sneak peek behind the curtain on that. What are some of the things that people have done in the past to make their event more attractive and stickier without just opening up the bar?
Yeah, for sure. This whole mission I started on kind of started about 3 years ago, and I went to an event in my industry, and it is known for the party. It is the best networking event in the conference in our industry. It was all drinking. It started at 4 o'clock happy hours. They had club night. They had a champagne toast. They had the whole thing. And I saw a lot of young professionals at this event, women specifically, who were trying to move up into C-suite level positions. And then when the alcohol started flowing, a lot of, I don't know, inhibitions were really a lot of evening things that they wouldn't necessarily be proud of in the morning after all the work that they did during the day in the evening. So I left that event going, this is probably not for me to go to anymore, right? I don't need to be at that event. I wasn't triggered because of the alcohol, but I was just like, this is too much
It,
focused around alcohol.
yeah, and it's just not fun for me.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So flash forward now, last month, I actually went to the same event because I had to go for a reason. And I was not looking forward to it. But I've been in conversations with their meeting planners since then of Sober Life Rocks. And I gave them a copy of my book and I was like, here's some suggestions. I believe I wasn't the only one who had these same feelings about their event. And the meeting planner said, don't worry, I got this under control. I'll take care of it. And a lot of times I hear that when I'm working with meeting planners. But what happens is they get to the hotel or convention food and beverage level, and big alcohol sort of runs the convention
That,
centers.
yes.
And so I get there and they're like, how did we do? And they had a sticky sweet mocktail in the corner and they give me a kid's cup. And I'm like, that I feel bad, but that's not what we're talking about, right?
Right.
So, flash forward to this event, I went and we walk in. They had options. They had sparkling water along with the champagne for the toast as you walked in.
Nice.
They advertised the evening as cocktails and mocktails, so people knew before they walked in. The all the bars had alcohol-free beer at them, and they had them prominent on the bar. So it was Bud Light, Coors, whatever, 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 and Partake, which was the NA beer right there. So you could point to it. They had an evening event that was the Spasmatics, which was an 80s band that everybody danced to. We had a drone show. They had alcohol-free beer. In fact, the bartenders told me they couldn't keep the alcohol-free beer in stock. They had to keep going, getting more
Wow.
because this was the beginning of a 3-day party, right? So even
Yeah.
people who do drink were like, I better take it easy, right?
I got to go 3 days here.
Yeah, right. I got to walk around with my NA beer, which was so fun. I felt included. They had the fun party, and then afterwards, at like 11 at night, they had a club night with a DJ, and it was sponsored by Tito's, which is great. It allowed everyone to partake and have fun and be at the event and not feel like they had to stand out. Nobody had to ask questions. You could point at the NA beer, get what you
Yeah.
wanted. I could grab a glass of champagne or sparkling water, whatever I wanted. And it was like night and day to this conference. And they got so much positive feedback from the attendees that they didn't even realize, had we not spotlighted on this, that they were really just kind of pushing the alcohol when really not everybody wanted it. So that was just a real life example of where I've seen some work that I've done, change and made me. I was so excited. I did social posts and pictures and stuff. And I'm like, look at this. This is amazing. So
Yeah.
just,
And it sounds like some really simple changes that you can make
Mhm.
that don't take a whole lot of effort, right?
Right. Right.
Because I mean, to make a mocktail, it's all the same ingredients, just no alcohol,
Right.
right?
And the thing is, there's a real, and so in my book, I break down in all the chapters, only two do I actually talk about the bar and alcohol. The rest are around the planning of the
Right.
conference, the environment, the space you use, the events. You don't have to have all networking events over happy hour. You can do a coffee networking. You can do a lunchtime networking, right? So there's different things you can do as an event planner. The biggest challenge that I do find is we still have these contracts with big alcohol at the food and beverage level. And it does take a meeting planner or an event planner or an owner to say, I want better options for people coming to my conference. Like, you need to do better and you need to help me do better. Otherwise, you end up with a sticky sweet mocktail in the corner that nobody really wants to drink, right? So there is a little bit of pushing, but I've outlined all that in my book.
Nice. Nice. And you said it's a free download, so we'll have the link for that below the show. You don't have to go very far to look for that. So, what have you noticed since you're really tuned into this around like a generational or a cultural shift in how people are viewing alcohol in a more professional setting now?
I think that it's moving. I think that it's hard for people who are choosing not to drink alcohol because they don't want to have the conversations. So, like you said, we put a lime in our drink and we just kind of walk around. And I assumed, like, I would go to conferences and assume I was the only one not drinking because everybody was carrying their lime around in their drink. And I assumed it was right.
Right.
So, I think it's definitely moving in the right direction. I think more and more people are getting vocal about their sober choices. I think it's slow moving because I do think that it's kind of, I equate it to like cigarettes. It didn't happen overnight, but remember when you had to go through a plane, walk through the smoking section in the restaurant,
Yes.
smoking section. And now people still smoke, but it's not as many and it's outside and so that didn't happen overnight. It took a movement, it took some regulation, it took some laws. but I think that people are being much more vocal. There's a ton of discussion on wellness, right? There's a mental health, physical health, wellness. And for me, it's, you can't talk about wellness unless you add in there your relationship with addictive substances, because you can do breath work all day long and yoga, but if you go home and drink a bottle of wine, maybe there's an issue there, right? So I think tying these all together, I think is important.
Yeah, I've done retreats in the past where we requested that everyone stay alcohol free as part of the reset.
Mhm.
And, the first time I requested that, I got a lot of pushback. And I held my ground and basically said, look, it's a week out of your life. It's a
Right,
week out of your life. You can go back to whatever habits you want, but let's just try on something different for a week out of your life.
right.
And at the end, the ones that had complained up front were like, you know what? This was a really great experience, and I'm glad you insisted. Like,
I think that, yeah, I think that a lot of times we are afraid of sober choices because we've never done things completely sober. Like people are like, how do I do a concert? How do I go to a wedding? How do I go to this event? And my thing is just be curious about it and try it, right? Just
yeah,
see how you like it because a lot of people on the other side are like, wow, it was better than I expected.
yeah, exactly. Like the alcohol makes it more fun in some way. And in my own experience, I don't find that it really does.
Mhm. Yeah. Well, and
Yeah,
there's research. The first 20 minutes of like you drink something, there's a time frame in there where like your inhibitions are lower and but then what happens is then alcohol and it trains us to want another one, and one turns into two and two turns into four, and you don't feel great the next morning. You don't get up with your kids like you were planning. You maybe said something that you didn't mean to say. Well, that's so you can replace the alcohol with something else that's going to give you joy and happiness. And that's where I always talk about this, play the tape forward. Like if I see that glass of wine and I'm like, God, it would be good to have a glass of wine. But I play it forward and I'm like, but all of these things, and I can go have something else and I'm going to get the same satisfaction.
yeah, exactly. And you won't wake up the next morning with something regrettable on your Instagram feed.
Exactly, exactly. Who's really behind this is HR professionals because most of the time the issues that come out of events are because of alcohol. And then we've got to write somebody up or fire somebody or somebody's done something and it's because of the alcohol at the event. So HR professionals are definitely more for like, let's see if we can make this more inclusive so that we don't have so many issues.
I love that. So we are coming up on our second break here. Let's think about some homework for the folks. What do you say?
I would say think forward now to an event maybe that you're going to or hosting and how you could either make suggestions or improve in making your event more inclusive.
I love that. How about some suggestions on how we make suggestions? Because I know there's sometimes a mixed bag, if you will, around how people feel their suggestions have been received. So,
For
what are some
sure.
tips for making a suggestion that's more likely to be considered?
Well, so the first thing is that's why I made my book a free download. You can buy the hard copy on Amazon, but the digital copy is free. So it's very easy to just forward that to a person and say, hey, by the way, have you seen this book? This is very interesting without you having to say, like I want better options. The second thing would be to maybe as you're registering for events under special dietary needs, because we ask for if people have food allergies, we ask if they're vegetarian or vegan. How about better non-alcoholic options, right?
Yeah,
Just putting it in the food. So if there's thousands of people coming, they get enough people who say we want better NA versions to putting it in there. And then literally just asking a simple question. If it's not just like, will there be options at this event like mocktails? Will you have other, can we make some suggestions? One of the things that's so surprising to me is just like have some Pellegrinos or
yeah,
have some sparkling waters or have something that it doesn't have to be, you have to go and make fancy mocktails and stuff, but have something that's just better than Coke and Sprite and water and coffee,
yeah.
like give us an adult beverage that just doesn't have alcohol in it.
I love that. So, take that little bit of homework and hang with us as we go over the break here. And we will come back and discuss more about sober living events and how you can make your business more inclusive around this matter. So, see you in a bit.
Oh, check the loud, but we're here. Tech is ours and we show no fear. No fear. From no fear. No fear.
Thanks for hanging in with us through the break. This is Zofia Morales. I'm back with the amazing and wonderful Laura Nelson. And before the break, she had suggested that we spend some time thinking forward about upcoming events that we have and what some options we might consider or include around the event. As a business owner, what would be some of the signs that our past events have not been as sobriety supportive as they could be?
That's actually a really good question. Nobody's ever asked me that question, so I love that. I would have to say that if you are getting either people not coming on a regular basis to your event or last minute cancellations, somebody's sick or their child's sick or something, there's a chance that maybe they felt like they had to come and then they had to come up with an excuse not to be there. If you feel like people are leaving early, they're coming and they're having their face shown and they're doing all that they need to do, but they're leaving early. Those are probably signs of people who are just not comfortable for whatever reason. And I would guess it probably has to do with the alcohol, the amount of alcohol at your event. I would also think about looking at your event. I mean, really, what we want is connection when we do these events.
Right.
Everybody getting connected? Or do you have one or two people who are sitting off to the side and you got your 20 people who are loud and having a good time? What are you doing to get everybody included into it? So I would say that there are definitely some areas where you could say, yeah, there's a group of people who either don't really get involved or don't show up or leave early. I know for me, that's where I was kind of frustrated. I'd go as a speaker to an event. I'd go to their evening event. And then after like the second round of drinks, it kind of got silly. And not, again, not that I was worried about me drinking, I left, but I was kind of like, these conversations are not really going to be remembered tomorrow. And I go back to my room. Well, I'm an extrovert. I like to hang out with people. I like to have fun. And I'm like, why am I sitting in my room?
Yeah,
Well,
it's bad when the extrovert leaves the
yeah,
party.
exactly. But now I found out because of this, there's a good percentage of people who are also not drinking that we could have hung out and we have now. We hang out longer because we're having great conversations and I'm having a good time. And not saying that I don't want to talk to the people drinking. It's just, it's a different kind of conversation. By two or
Yes.
three drinks in, it's a whole different thing, which is great. So now we have an inclusion of people who also want to stay and be involved. They just don't want to feel alone. And a lot of times being sober at an event can be a lonely place to be.
Oh, absolutely. And if you're a wallflower or have a wallflower kind of inclination, I know I've in the past been the one that's kind of sitting on the wall and watching the party go on around me, which is great because I am a people watcher. But how do you get people like me more engaged in the event?
So that's really where we start talking about making something else the focus of the event besides alcohol. So there's a few things you can do. So first of all, networking again doesn't have to be over happy hour. So before the event starts, to having a way for people to network when they walk in, like we can have networking in the morning or over lunch or at the beginning, making it networking an intentional activity, not just a side activity. Make it easy for people to network, play games, put fun stuff on their name tags, like partner them up. Like there's a lot of great networking ideas online, but understand that it's uncomfortable for even, I mean, it was uncomfortable when you were in middle school to walk into a dance and try to find your friends, just like it is in our 50s, walking into a room full of people, right?
Yeah.
So understand that as humans, it's hard to network and meet new people. The second thing would be, I would say, is the placement of your furniture, the spacing. If it's hard to walk into a conversation because the music's too loud, there's a DJ, there's a band, there's tables where everybody's sitting at a table and it's hard to get into that. So find ways to make the entertainment and the spacing of the event so that people can sit and talk, like you and I can have a conversation, but I'm not in a kids room or kids table. I'm in the party and I can run in and dance if I want to dance, but I can sit and have a conversation with you and it kind of be an overflow area. And then lastly, it would be what kind of entertainment or thing are you doing? Find a reason that people want to be there. So, the right kind of music, the right kind of DJ, maybe have a DJ that starts a little lower and then ramps up as the night goes on. Have scavenger hunts, games, like just do something that makes it easy for people to connect and have the alcohol. Just have the bar as a sideline. Don't have it be the main part
Yeah,
of it.
exactly. I was at a conference recently that made the networking like a scavenger hunt networking sort of situation. You needed to find somebody who's had this experience or this comes from this place, or I forget what all of the different things you were supposed to look for, but you had to talk to people to find it out because it wasn't like you could just walk by them and go, oh, well, obviously that's the person who's from South Carolina.
Right.
Yeah.
That's awesome. I was at an event recently where he did this, and we're actually going to do this at our conference because I love it. On the name tag, you put your name and then you write 3 topics you want someone to ask you about. And so it could be my children, my dog, and my car, or my business and my last travel, or whatever, because it gave you, I could walk up to your name tag and be like, tell me about your family, because I'm giving you the insight of what I care about. And I thought that was a really easy way to make it easy for people to ask questions.
Yeah, exactly. Because who remembers the list of topics you're supposed to bring up, right?
Yeah, exactly. And honestly, we network over business and all that, but honestly, if you want to talk to me about my kids, I light up, right? If you want to
Yeah.
talk about where I traveled last, I'll tell you all about my trip, right? And so we're giving a clue to someone like, here's something I like to talk about. So don't talk to me about the weather.
Yeah,
Like, talk
exactly. Don't
about
talk to
travel.
me about the local ball team. That's not my gig. Yeah.
Exactly, exactly.
Okay, I like that. I like that. So tell me a little bit about how your work is coming out into the world now. You mentioned the free book. We've got the link in the show notes. What else do you have for people to engage with?
Yeah, so we started this mission. Our goal was, I have a business partner, and our goal was to build a community of people to celebrate sober choices, right? So not to get people sober. We don't, that's a personal decision, but if you are on this sober journey, that you have a networking group for that. And we have a community, we have a LinkedIn group that you can join and be part of that. And then I wrote the book because I had so many event planners saying, well, how do I make my events more inclusive? And so that was kind of the next step on the journey. But now what we're doing is we have talked to so many people who are in the sober space. They're podcasters, they've written books, they're authors, they're wanting to be more vocal, they want to do, but they don't know how to get started or grow their influence. And so we've decided to have the first ever sober influencer conference, which is basically people have been talking about sobriety. I mean, really, 2020 is when it really took off. There was a few people before that, but now there's a lot of people who are talking about their sober choices. We have all the different online platforms and podcasts and stuff. So we're having the first ever conference where we're bringing anybody in this space together under one roof because we think that first we can learn from each other. And then, second of all, the collaboration amongst each other. Because we talk to, for example, I know 4 different people who are trying to help restaurants bring in better mocktails into their menu options. But there are 4 people around the country who are not connected to one another. And we're thinking if we can get these people in the same room together, imagine what they can do together. So we really want to help people grow and then also collaborate and work together to see if we can continue this movement to make all of our environments more sober inclusive.
I love that. Love that. So if you've had a history of alcohol forward events that have seemed to be popular, you didn't notice any of the particular signs that you mentioned. Is there any downside to moving forward with a more supportive, sober supportive event?
I would say that the only downside would be maybe the pushback you'll get from the spaces, the events that you're having them, hosting them at, the food and beverage people, the conference centers, the hotels that are going to say, this is the way we've always done it, or because they have contracts that they have to fulfill, right? They have agreements with. Now, the good side of this is if you look, a lot of the big alcohol companies are now buying alcohol-free brands and NA brands or having their own because they're seeing that there is a market for NA options. And so I would say that would be the main pushback you're going to get. If you offer, I guarantee if you offer better alcohol-free options, there's going to be a percentage of your attendees who are going to like it, who are going to drink them, and who are going to probably say something about it because it's going to be a welcome improvement to your already great event. So there's really no risk to do it except for having to push kind of the envelope a little bit of what we've been used to.
I like that. I like that. So, what would be your final words of wisdom to a business owner who's considering going down this road?
I think it's just, again, we have had so many people who just fit in, who are anonymous about their decision to not drink, who are just going along the way they've always done. And as a business owner, my hope is that you want to see everyone that's in your environment, to respect everyone. One example I give is if you remember back in the day, we'd go to events and vegetarian and vegans would have to go to a special table to get their meal.
Yes, yes.
Now they
Or
get
or it
served.
would be brought to me separately
Yeah.
and like ice cold.
Yeah, and then everybody kind of looked at you like, oh, you're the vegetarian, or and now everything's served right there with everyone else. So we're at that same spot with alcohol. We just need to keep pushing this. And I know in my heart of hearts as a business owner that if you do this, you will find and have conversations with people that you didn't even know that are potentially trying to be sober, in recovery or not, doesn't matter, just thanking you for making them feel more included.
I love it. I love it. So, how can someone get a hold of you? You mentioned you have a Facebook community,
Yep, we have a LinkedIn community.
a
Yep.
LinkedIn community. Okay.
Yep. We do that specifically because LinkedIn is professionals.
Yeah,
So
and I will make sure I get the right one in the show notes.
that's great. That's great. Well, and we did it on LinkedIn because also in our community is not just sober. I mean, we've got HR professionals, event people, like people who just support this message and this thing that we're trying to grow. So we have our LinkedIn, and it's not just following us on LinkedIn. There's an actual community or group that you can search for. Everything else is at Sober Life Rocks. So you can learn more about us there. You can find the download of my book there. Our event is coming up in January. Hopefully, we have these annually. So everything else that we're doing in this area is all on Sober Life Rocks.
I love that. Thank you so much for joining us today. I know this is going to be timely as we're going into the holiday season here and everyone's planning their events. Yeah, and so I really appreciate that. And I hope you, dear listeners, have gotten some insight and some inspiration around this topic as well that you can use, bring into your business, and help to build that diverse community that feels fully supported and fully seen. And let's see, what else do I want to say before I go? I want to say, go out there, do that thing that you do beautiful. And I'd love to hear from you. Send me an email to Zofia, Zofia, at steminstilettos.com. Let me know what you thought of the show, what you loved, what you didn't like so much, topics you'd like to hear me take on, or people you'd like to see me speak to. And I do this show for you. And so I take all of the feedback that I get to heart, and I'm working to make this better every week. So it's a good, solid investment of your time here. And until next week, go out there, be beautiful, be bold, and be authentically you.